Good evening and welcome to Winthrop High School. It's Monday, March 25th, 6 p.m. This meeting is recorded live. Ms. Haynes, you please call the roll.
Mr. Fabiano?
Here.
Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Powell? Here. Ms. Swope?
Present.
Mr. Vecchia?
Present.
Mr. Perrin?
Here.
Mr. Capabianco?
Here. Ms. Powell, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask that everyone remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Melody Allen. She was a special ed teacher at Winthrop Middle School for over 30 years of service. Thank you. Any public comment this evening? Ms. Howard, I believe we have some delegates and visitors.
We have the Winthrop Middle School Quiz Bowl champs, so give it up for them. So super proud of you all and the effort that you put into the whole Quiz Bowl scene. Kudos for working with Mr. Farnsworth and Ms. Gallagher. I know they tortured you guys a little bit, but you guys are amazing. So we'd like to give you some citations for your hard work to acknowledge what you've done. So we're going to ask you, and I'm sure you're psyched about it, to actually come up here. We're not going to have you walk all the way across the stage because we don't want any Quiz Bowl guys or girls tripping. And we're going to have you come on up and get these citations. And I will have you come up one at a time.
Because the Quiz Bowl is a...
So do you want to read I'll have Mr. Capabianco read the resolution, and then we'll have you guys come up.
Sure, we'll just do one. We have a resolution here. Whereas Christopher Rainey has served with enthusiasm and school spirit as a member of the Winthrop Middle School Quiz Bowl team. Whereas Christopher Rainey and fellow classmates competed in the Malden Catholic Quiz Bowl, earning first place. And let it here be resolved that the school committee of the town of Winthrop extended sincerest congratulations, offer best wishes for future endeavors, and voted and made part of the official minutes of the Winthrop School Committee on March 25th, 2019, and it's signed by myself, the colleagues of the school committee, Superintendent Howard, and President Vecchia. So I'd like to make a motion that we all approve the resolutions honoring
Second.
our classmates. So we have a motion by President Vecchia, second by Ms. Powell. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Congratulations.
So the first
Chris is the only one who's not here.
Oh,
That's why we used his as an example.
The next student to come up, John Tracy. Next student, Christian Bonfani. Benjamin Brew. Alexandra Daniel. Dave Dickerson. We're also going to bring up Amy Gallagher, Ms. Gallagher. Coach Farnsworth. Thank you all. Can we do a group picture, you guys? So we can bring the team and the coach.
Come on, guys, you gotta get just the kids. Come on, let's go to group kids.
Patty, you gonna do the picture?
This is going on the middle school side. Guys, you moved.
I am wicked funny. That's the same joke I used to tell.
You are so funny, man. I'll tell you.
How much of the citations increased last year?
It's a memory stick with the thing. Just plug it into the computer. I'll teach you.
What do we need? How much that can hold? Actually, that is a list.
Mine's real. Nobody stayed.
No, don't say anything, just say it's on the.
Where'd everybody go?
Moving on, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2019 meeting and the March 11th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. We do have a few financial and business procedures this evening. We have warrant SVW 19-15, the amount of $204,483.56. Do I have a motion to approve the warrant? Motion by Mr. Fabiano, second by Ms. Swope. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. We have a payroll warrant, SPW 19-14, the amount of $683,521.14. Do I have a motion to approve the warrant? Motion by President Vecchia, seconded by Ms. Swope. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Two abstentions. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on to buildings and grounds, we do have a few requests by the Winthrop Youth Lacrosse Program and the Winnock Special Olympics Program. Do I have a motion to approve them? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve together.
Motion to approve together. I'd like to add that we waive the rental fee for the Winnock. Second by President Vecchia. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Zero opposed, one abstention. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Subcommittee reports, Mr. Fabiano.
So we had a
Athletics.
athletic subcommittee, or it was under that. An athletic subcommittee today, 5 o'clock. Myself, Gus, and Tina were there. We discussed 3 subjects, athletic transportation, middle school sports, and Miller Field. We have 2 seasons in of what the costs are for athletic transportation, so we took that information and we try to compare it to what it would cost if we had other possibilities, whether we were able to purchase vans or if we had the possibility of going back to getting a bus from Viking Pride. So we took those numbers in, we're trying to look them over and see where it brings us, see if it's worth the challenges that it would be to run it ourselves compared to having it contracted out. We're also going to wait for that RFP to come in for transportation. So we're going to set up another meeting to take a motion of where we want to go, if we want to stay the same, that we're doing today, or if we want to try to make a change. So we're going to just take that stuff in and have another meeting to finalize that information. Then we discussed the possibilities of middle school sports. Vasily and Matt Serino were there, and they kind of gave us some numbers. What they were interested in doing was starting possibly a middle school wrestling, cross-country, and outdoor track next year. We feel that from the numbers they gave us, that it would cover, the cost would cover itself. And it would be $125 per person, $500 for a cap. And so they felt that it would cover the cost to run these 3 programs. We took a motion. The motion was to approve middle school sports for the FY 19-20 season, contingent upon participation and cost. It was a 2-1 vote in favor, so we'll bring it to the committee, I assume, next meeting for a full vote. Is that what we would do? Or,
They could discuss it tonight.
or is there, or could we discuss it now? How would you want to?
I think we could discuss it now.
Okay.
If anyone had any questions regarding to the vote or what Mr. Sereno's proposal was.
They wanted to wait, we could wait till the next meeting, we could discuss it.
We'll discuss it now. Everybody okay with discussing it now? Yeah.
I mean, with the, I voted in favor of the motion. It was to add cross-country, track and wrestling if the participation interest is there for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Sereno and Mr. Curley put a survey out there. There was high interest for those 3 sports.
I'll give them the numbers.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So just for likely and highly likely, for cross-country, it was 25 students. Wrestling, it was 33, and outdoor track was 91 on the survey. Men and women. So those are the numbers that they got back, that were either likely or highly likely interested in participating in the sport. Sorry, Tina. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that it's something we used to have in Winthrop. I think, you know, I think we're a thriving school district, and if there's any way we can increase participation in youth sports and giving students an activity to do after school, I think that's a positive thing. And if the interest is there, it's something I'm fully supportive of. Mr. Matucci.
The other thing was urgent, is that they checked out before what sports weren't being offered by other private town youth programs.
I
Parks
think
and
that was
Rec and-
important, that looking at the youth programs that we currently have in town, such as youth soccer, youth lacrosse, and youth basketball. So those are programs that are flourishing in the community. Many of our students take advantage of those programs, and our goal is to support the programs that we already have running in town and not to take students from those youth programs, making those programs any smaller, but to look at some other possibilities of athletics where there isn't a program already running in town that kids can participate in. So track was one of the ones that, you know, we get a large interest in track during the school year, but we don't have a feeder system for track. And it's as individual as it seems, it's also very much a team-based athletic event. So you can run individual, or you could be in a relay. You know, so you could be an individual runner. So I think the interest there in keeping our students busy after school definitely was something that they did some research. I thought calling the other schools, so Mr. Sereno did a lot of work in calling other local school districts to see who had middle school sports, and he has a list of many North Shore communities that run middle school sports. Where, and he checked out, because all of their calendars are already done, and so he asked how many people would be willing to squeeze us into their calendar to have some track meets with us. And I believe with wrestling, they were looking at potentially starting it as a club sport and maybe not competing at a middle school level, still being able to get some club matches in, so it might be a little bit less travel involved in that. But the interest of the students, I'm surprised that we had so many students interested in wrestling. So both track in the fall and in the spring, I think, is a great idea for our students. And then they did the math. So they looked at how many students would participate, what would that look like if we had to travel? So if we had to go away to a meet and we had 50 kids, how many buses would we need? If we had 60 kids, how many buses would we need? And then what type of a user fee for middle school sports, as minimal as we could make it. So they did the math and estimating the cost of the coach, any materials or supplies or equipment they may need, as well as the cost for transportation if we were to schedule X amount of away trips and then bring students here. The survey I thought was a great idea. And we always have great ideas, but what's the interest? What is the interest of not just the students, but the parents? So the way that Mr. Curley and Mr. Serino felt was best was to send it to the parents with a little reminder that we'd like you to ask your student if they would be interested in this, and then how interested. You know, most likely I'd participate, maybe I'd participate. So that gave them a pretty good sense. And then the understanding that to run them, we would need to have a certain amount of students per sport in order to make it a self-supporting program. So I thought they did a great job at really looking into it and keeping in mind that the students are asking for this. And again, thinking about our connection to the community and not wanting to interfere with other programs that are up and running and doing very well with lots of participation in them. And in the community-based programs, there's also a fee to participate in those programs. But for the most part, if you're playing youth soccer or youth basketball or even youth hockey, the travel is upon the parents to get the students to and from those activities. So it's a little bit of a different program in terms of the amount of games the students would play or the amount of meets that the students would have, but certainly filling a need and filling a void of after-school activities for our students. So I commend them, they did a great job.
Survey that went through the parents.
Went to the
kids
parents.
and the parents.
Mhm. So fifth grade went to fifth grade parents, so we're assessing the needs of the incoming sixth graders, and seventh grade, current sixth graders and current seventh graders were those who were asked, so we catch that 6, 7, and 8 for next year.
Good.
So I
thought they
was the
did a
no
nice job.
vote on the motion. I go back and forth, and I don't necessarily know why I was the no vote. It just in my head, we're always tight with space. You know what I mean? Where are we gonna fit them in to practice? Okay, and then there was conversation to have them practice with the high school team for track and things. For me, I think that age difference is not really necessarily a good thing. That's kind of why one of the conversations we had about this school, keeping them separate. Then we're gonna put in sixth grader in with the 12th grader running track somewhere, so I'm a little hesitant there. I'm also hesitant in the sense where we know what our budget is gonna be this year. We're gonna have to make some cuts somewhere to make it work. How do we go out there and say, we want this program? I know as of right now, it's gonna pay for itself, but as time goes on, and all of a sudden, 3 sports turns into 6 sports, and does it pay for itself down the road as well? And then I have a middle school child, and I know how many activities are going on right now, and there's this, and we're running from sport to sport. Eventually, it's gonna take away from those youth programs because there's only so much time. So, you know, my daughter would play one less youth program to run track, so it would affect the youth program. So, and it is a great idea. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just not comfortable right now thinking now is the time to start the program. So I'm not against it. I just don't know if right now I'm ready to be in favor of it.
And I think we have some time on this, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but I think maybe the next meeting or 2 meetings from now, we will have to make a decision, just because, at the end of the year, the budget, and the end of the year, they're gonna have to solicit signups for the fall sporting season.
So,
Mrs. Swope?
just one more fact, just so I can add to that, is Mr. Serino said that what he did was he put us on the cross-country program for next year, because he said it's easier to get taken off than to add on, later on. So he has us in that program for the cross-country, just to play it safe. And he said to us he needed to know an answer by the end of the school year.
So,
Most every other sport, tennis is not like this, but most every other sport is a group team sport. And what I like about offering track is that you're competing against yourself in so many ways. And for those kids that don't like participating necessarily in that group activity, I think this would be a great outlet. So, that's my comment.
any other comments on?
Maybe before we vote, maybe the next time we report out on this, that maybe we can have some idea, maybe an input from the athletic department relative to scheduling. Is it feasible to fit it in, with obviously the new field and track? I see that football can be practicing and track can be going on at the same time, and as cross-country could. I guess it's, scheduling.
He proposed these 3 sports for that reason, saying that these would be the sports would be able to fit what we have now without stepping on toes.
Okay.
Can we also get a financial breakdown so that we can see what the numbers should look like, the projections?
Yeah, he has that.
I mean, what I like about this is it's creative thinking at a time when we are tight on budgets. This is a way we may be able to, without impacting the budget, offer something new, which is, I think that's what we're gonna need to do
Absolutely.
to be able to stay vibrant.
Ms. Howard, if we maybe, when it's prepared to vote on this, we can invite Mr. Sereno to give us a fully athletics breakdown, but also spend some time talking about his middle school sports proposal.
For sure, and I can have the financial breakdown to you ahead of time. I'll send it to the chair and have him distribute that because they have done that already.
Anything else out of the
And then we just had one more, we quickly talked about Miller Field and the fee structure. We got a document from him of what his proposal is to adjust it somewhat. We didn't have really any time to take it in and look at it, so we just took it under advisement. We're gonna look it over, and we'll have another athletic subcommittee probably within the month to go over that information.
Thank you.
The point of looking at that is for looking at the current fees and seeing if there is any way we can reduce the cost of the youth programs in the community if we can, correct? That was sort of the proposal in general?
We
You
barely
haven't had a
looked at it,
chance
he
to see
kind of went over it, and so we
Okay.
didn't, but I'm assuming that's the purpose of the
Okay, great.
adjustment.
So that'll come to the next,
Yeah,
the next meeting.
we get as soon as we get that RFP, we'll have another athletic subcommittee meeting, and we'll be able to go over pretty much these three subjects again if we.
okay, perfect.
Thank you, Jimmy. Moving on, Ms. Howard, superintendent's report.
Yes. So we have a few things this week. I'd like to talk about the students from Ms. Danielle's STEAM class presented their year-long science, research, and engineering design projects at the Mass Regional Science Fair at Somerville High School on March 9th. We have 16 members of our student council went on for MASC's annual conference in Hyannis last week. They took a bus there, and they had some small vans that brought them back. We're trying to look at creating some efficiencies in the cost of our transportation, so some of our bus drivers were able to fit that into their day and go down and pick the students up in Hyannis and bring them back, as opposed to renting a really large vehicle. So that was definitely a cost savings. During the three-day conference, they participated in many leadership workshops and listened to several influential keynote speakers, and they have reported back that it was an enjoyable time, and as it always is, and that they had learned quite a bit. Students in Mr. Cross's life skills class and food and nutrition course that he teaches celebrated Pie Day by making mini pies. The students baked both lemon and licorice tarts with the help of their peer mentors. We had some of our own staff judge the pie contest, and students had a great time doing that. Our Viking Longship project, we have students that have presented to me and are going to come at their request. I'll be asking if they can come to a school committee meeting to present to you an idea they have on creating a blacksmithing class. And they want to bring blacksmithing into the Viking Longship program. It's the process of using forge to heat up metal and to shape it. I actually was able to see some of the metals that the students have worked on, and it's very, very interesting. And when I say they, 3 students that had come to see me, Ty Kalinda, Julia Marcocchio, and Ivy Crespo, met with me and pled their case about why they would like to bring blacksmithing to the school. And they did an amazing job. They were nervous as all get out. After about 20 minutes, they let their shoulders down, and they spoke so eloquently, and I think it's because they have such passion for what they want to do, so well-schooled in it, taught me quite a bit. I knew absolutely nothing about blacksmithing. They then went on to petition the fire captain and the town building inspector, because there's some approvals that need to be had for us to bring in some of the material and machinery that they need to work with. I was overly impressed by their presentation, but more impressed by the fact that they took that next step to go and speak with our fire department as well as our town inspector. So more to come on that. They'd like to bring that for you to see.
If I may, I just say I met with these students earlier in the year. They actually brought me into the classroom. And Vasily and I are actually graduates and products of the program.
Yep.
So I'm excited to hear them present, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have to say, and hopefully it's something we could move forward with in the
It's pretty
district.
cool. I mean, it would be very unique for our students. I don't know, and they're doing a little research on this, if there's another school district in the Commonwealth that has blacksmithing. And if there is not, and I have not been able to find one, I don't think Skane's been able to find one, what a unique thing to put on your resume. And the fact that you built that program as a student, and it was your idea, and you brought it from start to finish. They had their own fundraising activities, they had a budget prepared, and once they were able to kind of calm themselves down in the room, they presented so well. So I did agree with them when they come to the school committee to be their coach during their presentation to the school committee. So we're going to do a little pre-gaming in my office ahead of time before they present. I told them that nobody on the school committee bites, and that they would be perfectly fine, and it's a good opportunity to improve their public speaking. That's a big piece of this, the whole project that they're putting out, that they're able to speak to different stakeholders and get people interested and get the buy-in. So it was very cool to listen to them. I was very impressed. Congratulations to the following students who completed in their Mass Regional History Day competition in Stoneham. Sophomores Ayat Walid and Fatima Marheni received honorable mention in the group website category for their project on Jane Addams. I may have spoken about this last week, but I wasn't sure if I had, 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't sure if I had mentioned those particular students. Some of our students that are working with our community to engage our community a little bit more deeply. A student by the name of Eric Gillis prepared and wrote a grant to the Sons of Italy Norway Foundation. He was requesting financial support, again, for the Viking Longship project for their 14 by 24 Viking replica longhouse, which has been contracted by students in the project 12 years ago. So we had a number of students who worked on that, and they were awarded a grant of $1,000 to Eric, so that's pretty amazing. The community can be proud of their dedication, of our students that are now taking that next step and being creative with funding and going out and learning how to write grants and involve themselves in that process, which is not an easy process. So it's improving their writing skills, their public speaking skills, and their understanding of budget and overall, how do you get something done when you're passionate about it, and how do you get it done quickly? So very proud of our students for that. Congratulations to our Drama Society. They did such an amazing job. I happened to get, I had the opportunity to go to to Andover and watch our students perform. They were amazing. End result, we did not move on. It was up to me, and I was one of the judges, the people who sat in front of me. I would have made them move on. They did a great job. There were some amazing performances there that night. So the competition was stiff. I always think we're better than everybody else, and I will still say we are. But our students did an amazing job. So kudos to them for just continuing to push the envelope with what they present and how well they do it. We had our March Madness 3-on-3 basketball tournament over the past couple of weeks, middle school and high school students. And athletically, I would say the students were far better than the teachers this year, and they raised quite a bit of money and had an enjoyable time. A couple of other key items. Wellness Week scheduled for April 8th through the 12th. During this week, we're going to have several speakers and organizations visit us and provide resources around substance abuse, our physical health, mental health, healthy relationships, and inclusion. For those of you who may have seen Murphy, we have Murphy the therapy dog is here at Winthrop Middle School. Murphy's part of the Mass Start program and visits our students a few days a week. The goal is Murphy is helping us with some of our social emotional learning and assisting our students in many ways. And the Mass Start program spent a lot of time vying for the ability to bring a therapy dog into the school. We did some research on how that would look, looking at allergies, and do our students have allergies? What's the insurance piece behind this? So we did our research on that. And he has been a great addition to the middle school and continues to work with some of our students, allowing our students to just take a break. And it's amazing what therapy dogs do. If anyone's ever done any research on it, it's a way to make somebody smile when they're not necessarily in great space. So it's been very helpful. I've also just started working with the Riverside Training Center. They are a group of people who work on threat assessment, helping us. We have developed a threat assessment team for our school at the beginning of this school year, identified personnel in the school that gets together at 2 different levels. We have a Tier 1 team and a Tier 2 team, that if in fact there is a threat, this particular group of people comes together very quickly to evaluate the situation and determine what the next step in any one of these situations is. We have looked a little bit more deeply into providing our staff with some additional professional development around depression and suicide, as well as safe choices and trauma identification. More to come on that. Riverside, we have a grant that we work with the police chief and also with Meredith Hurley through the town nurse to make funds available to expand our professional development around depression, and not just students, but staff and other community members, and to just kind of dig back a little bit and think about what does that look like, and not assume that everybody understands what depression and what suicidal ideation looks like in our community. So we are working with that particular group at the Riverside Training Center to set up those trainings. Most likely we'll begin over the summer with our threat assessment teams, and then move forward into the fall, looking to educate our entire staff, students, and parents. So we're working on those proposals right now and the grant funding associated with that. Solar panel update, the anticipation of that project is beginning on April 6th. We're going to ask them if they could push out a little bit. We need to close down our parking lot while they raise some materials on top of the roof. So we're looking to squeeze out maybe another week or 2 and see if we can have that actual placement of some of the materials on the roof done during April vacation, because we will need to close the entire back parking lot of the school for safety purposes. So Mikhail and Rich are looking into just pushing that date out a little bit for us, so I can bring more information back on that as that becomes available. Our E-rate application I filed on Friday. E-rate is monies that we are able to get back for some of our technology. For instance, Comcast, for our internet service. So I've been working with the E-rate group to identify what Winthrop Public Schools has that's E-rateable, which is an odd term, but there are many areas that you're able to get, even if it's a few dollars back, but you have to apply for it, and you have to apply for it within a certain window. So between Retrofit, which is the technology company that the school district contracts with to oversee our backup and recovery process and our servers in the district, they've been very helpful in helping me identify what parts of our technology that we use now is something that we would be able to submit for and to get some level of reimbursement. Right now, we get reimbursement through Comcast, but there's a number of other options. So we've applied for absolutely everything that we can apply for. They're probably not too happy about the thick pages that they had to read for us. And if it's not E-rateable, it won't be approved. But we're taking a chance to try to get back every dime we can for technology so that we can put it back into the schools. And then the New England Association of Schools and Colleges is here to do our accreditation and to look deeply into the Winthrop Public Schools at the high school level. We're in the self-reflection stage. The high school has worked very hard to engage just about everybody in this building in the self-reflection. There's been teams that have been put together beginning in September, and folks have been looking at the last evaluation that was done by NEA, SNC, and we have dramatically changed since the last time they were here, which I believe was 2010. So I'm excited to see their faces when they walk through the door. This is not the Winthrop High School that I went to, and it's a very different look. So it'll be neat to see their reaction. My guess is that they're not the same people, but they have the last report that was done that talks about the lack of accessibility for students with physical impairments. It talked about just the windows, how the windows tilted out instead of in. So when they walk in here, I think they're going to be blown away by that, as well as the improvements overall in terms of our technology and instruction. They are coming on the 3rd and 4th. The 3rd, they'll do the actual visit. They'll read the self-reflection that I believe was completed today. I will share that with the committee as soon as it becomes a public document so that you're able to see it. And on the 4th, they spend the entire day reflecting on our reflection. And so you will receive that report as well. We do, as a school district, we are obligated to house them overnight, as well as feed them. So, and next year, they will be here for, I believe, 5 days during the 2019-2020 school year.
It's like a self-study report that you turn into them, and then they look
Correct.
at that. So that's called self-reflection on the high school level.
So it's the opportunity you have to talk about yourself, all
Right.
the amazing things that we do here. Also for us to identify the things that we're working on and the places that we'd like to be, so that they have a sense of
About how long is it?
about 58 pages.
Pardon me?
It's about 58 pages.
Okay.
Am I right? Mr. Malios, I believe 58 was where I was at right before I came here and reading the draft. So, and it's well-written.
Do they ask for a lot of data?
They ask a lot of questions, and they give you guiding questions, and they're sort of guiding you to give them the information that they want. And Mr. Crombie did a nice job of putting together teams of people. Years ago, both Mr. Crombie and myself, I believe, were the type of people that would sit in a room and shut the door and fill that whole thing out ourselves. The two of us have grown tremendously in understanding that engaging other people, one, helps you do it faster, but certainly makes it better and more reflective of what's actually happening in the
Especially
school
when they
district.
come.
Yeah, and I think that the teachers feel pride in this school, and they want to be able to sit together and talk about where we were and how far we've come, and where we want to be. And so it'll be a nice, it'll be interesting to see what they see compared to what we see. And it will be great when they redo our accreditation. So that is it for me. So for personnel, we have no appointments or resignations or retirements at this time. And for postings, we have posted our winter coaching athletic positions. I know that sounds silly, but we like to post them far ahead of time so that we are ready to go for our next season. So we're always a season ahead of ourselves. And we have posted for a long-term .5 pre-K education support person substitute at the William P. Gorman. And we have no leave of absences at this time.
Moving on to new business in our packet, Ms. Howard, we have a document regarding the ATC playground recommendation. Would you like to give us your recommendation on that?
So the committee had, Mr. Fabiano, which committee were we on?
Buildings and grounds?
Buildings and Grounds Committee. So this came out of Buildings and Grounds, there's so many committees.
Yeah.
This came out of Buildings and Grounds. At our last meeting, Mr. Fabiano gave a report that they had looked at two playground, not an RFP, but quotes for the playground, and the committee met and had chosen one of the two and said that they were going to report out which one that was this particular meeting. And it was Altiplay, Parks and Playground, and the total cost for a full redo of the Arthur T. Cummings Playground was for $141,200. And at the time, the funding source for that playground, we were intending to go back to the town to either put in a request for capital improvement or looking at the Winthrop Foundation perhaps as a request once that committee was up and running. And that was the last we left off with that.
Right, so what do you want to do, make a motion to have Lisa bring that to the town?
Yeah, I'd like to make a
document? Is
motion
that
to have
how we wanted to do it?
the superintendent bring this quote from Altiplay to the town to seek the funding for that, and a second by President Vecchia. Any discussion on that motion?
I have a question.
Yep. Ms. Powell?
The design of the playground, I know this is for the, choosing the company and for the funds for that. Is this design, are we locked into that, or is that something that's up for debate and discussion later?
It's up for debate and discussion. You can change at any time with both groups that put out quotes, informed us that you can change anytime you'd like to during the process. Once you have a funding source and you know what your amount of money is, if your group meets back together and wants to exchange either a twirl around for the students or a climbing aspect, of the playground, that those can be switched out. You're staying within the parameter of the cost that you have. And so I would be bringing this back once I bring it to a committee, if there is approval from the town for that, whether it's through capital or whether it's through another funding source. I would then bring that back to the coming school, to the principal, as well as assistant principal and other folks that were involved in looking at different the different styles that we could put in there, and have them, knowing that they have a certain amount of money, now you can tweak it a little bit if need be.
The town has worked with Altiplay before on a few playgrounds, so we know what they do and how they do it. And the other company, MRC, correct me if I'm wrong, built the original ATC playground that's there now.
Correct.
So they built the other one. So we've dealt with both, but Altiplay was a cheaper quote, and we were comfortable with using them from past experiences, so that's kind of why we ended up going this route and selecting Altiplay.
Well, I know the town manager was committed to getting it done. There was a question on the cost based on, an evaluation by different companies. But I think an endorsement by the school committee obviously would be a good thing.
Absolutely.
So I can bring that I can draft that as a capital request or in a similar fashion where it outlines the need, it outlines the actual quote. It will provide copies of and pictures of what it may look like, with an understanding that may be changed. And what we would be requesting would be the funding for that particular process.
Any further questions on the motion?
I'm not sure if we can put in the document somehow or another that if we could get it done over the summertime, not during the school year, it would be our preference, so that
I'm
we're
sure
not
with
losing.
Altiplay,
Yeah. I
they
think
were
that'll
looking
all
at
depend.
coming in
But if we can
June.
just have that put in there
I can
somewhere,
put that in,
Okay.
that
sure.
we'd recommend that time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the
If we
sooner
could-
the-
if we could.
The sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion on a second, directing the town manager I'm directing the superintendent to bring this to the town manager. Ms. Hames, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes, that's 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and the motion is adopted. I just want to thank everyone for their hard work on this process.
And thank you, Mrs. Howard, for the work that she did on it.
Sure, it's been a pleasure. You know more about playgrounds than
Yeah.
I ever thought I'd know.
Moving on, Vice Chair Perrin would like to read a resolution in support of full funding for our public schools.
Okay, a resolution in support of full funding for our public schools. Whereas free public schools available to all students without exception are foundational to our democracy and are required by the state constitution. And whereas all of our students, no matter where they live, deserve high-quality public schools that teach the whole child and provide them with a rich school experience that addresses their academic, social, and emotional needs. Whereas the state's foundational budget formula, which determines state aid to each district, has been woefully out of date for years, thereby underfunding our districts by more than $1 billion a year for essential educational services. And whereas an updated foundational budget would bring the Winthrop Public School up to $1,177,991 for additional state aid, your district would receive each year under a new formula an additional state aid each year, following this district to move closer to providing all students with the education to which they are entitled as residents of the Commonwealth, and therefore it be resolved that the Winthrop School Committee urges the legislature to approve and fully fund a new foundation budget formula by May 1st, 2019. I just want to note that Senator Boncory has notified us that he supports this resolution as well. I would ask for a motion to accept this resolution and a roll call vote.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Matucci made the motion, second by Mr. Vecchia. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes. That's 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and the motion is adopted. Sorry, the resolution is adopted. Moving on, if you see in your packet, we have the proposed 2019-2020 school calendar. I would like to make a motion, as proposed by the superintendent, it's in your packet, I'd like to make a motion to approve the calendar. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell.
I may just add,
Yep.
now that you have a second for conversation. So at the bottom of this calendar, I don't know if in your packet you have one that has the start and ending times. This vote would be based solely on, and we'll come back to the committee with the half-days that we'd like to incorporate, as well as the start and end times that we would like to have for the schools. This is solely for the purpose of the start and end date of the school year. So we're still working on our professional development days and to make sure that we can align them with the school's goals and that we have our folks lined up to do our professional development. And the start and end times may be tweaked a little bit. The principals are still in conversation about those. But in terms of the calendar itself, for those folks who are watching, we are looking to have our new student orientation on August 26th, have our teachers report for opening day, have our teachers report for the 28th for a full day of professional development. The 29th, the teachers would report, and that is a half-day professional development with opening day activities as well. There would be no school on the 30th, and there would be no school, obviously, on the 2nd of September, which is Labor Day, and our students would start on September 3rd, which would be the day after Labor Day. The last day of school for our students would be without snow days, June 16th. And that allows our students to have 180 school days, our teachers to have 183 teaching days. One thing to note, we have 2 elections this year. We have an election on November 5th. That would be no school for students, but it would be a PD day for teachers. So staff would show up and the students would not. And then we have one more election in March. We have the primary on March 3rd, and there would be no school for students or staff on March 3rd. Reason being, we need to fit 183 days in for the teachers and the students 180. So tonight's vote would be for the start and end date of the calendar. And I'll bring more information, as I said, about about half-days for professional development and parent-teacher conferences, as well as update the start and end times and have that information for you as soon as it's resolved with the staff.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Just one more point of clarity, sorry. I did speak with the union about this calendar, as well as the principals. So this is something that's been vetted out quite a bit.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on, if you'll see in your packet, we received a request for a memorial bench at Miller Field. Ms. Howe, would you like to give us some guidance on that, or?
So I'll give you a little
Elsewhere.
bit of guidance,
Yeah.
and then look for some guidance from this committee as well. In terms of the memorial bench itself and having a memorial bench, that goes through the town, and the town has a committee that makes some decisions about memorial benches. Where this request has a secondary piece to it, which is the folks are asking for this memorial bench to be placed on Miller Field. And so I would need some guidance from the committee, and perhaps you want to move this to a subcommittee discussion, which is perfectly fine, regarding that process. And if there is a process in place, if we need to do some research on that, certainly the subcommittee could do that.
Motion by Mr. Matucci, we have a second by President Vecchia. Any discussion?
Quick question. So this is sitting right next to the Mike Mason bench. So isn't this outside of Miller Field on that grass area?
So they were asking, the request, I believe, was to have it at the site at Miller Field.
But it's also saying next to where Mike Mason's bench is, right?
Which is, did you say that's outside of the fence of Miller Field?
Isn't it, originally was just outside of it, and I'm trying to think of the new fence. Vasily, any idea?
It's, Mason's bench is within Miller Field, it's not.
So the new fence went around, outside of, around the bench. So the old field, it was,
Right there.
yeah. Okay, so the old field, it was outside, but with the new fence, it's inside.
I want to say it was close to the baseball field, but I don't recall that.
It's on the
always been in the confines of the field. But not, it was closer towards like the outside fence.
That way. But we didn't move or anything, correct? In the snake.
I think we can further discuss
Okay.
this in subcommittee, yeah. Because, again, this is something I might be in favor of. I just think we need a little more clarity on it. So we have a motion. Is there any further discussion to send this to subcommittee? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Any public comment? Public relations? President Vecchia? Gus? Jimmy?
Yeah, Winthrop is having its yearly fundraiser, fourth annual walk down at Dare Island on May 5th. If anybody would like to donate or become a sponsor, you can reach Winthrop at www.winthrop.org. If not, come down and walk with us.
The third annual Viking Color Run is coming up, and it's hosted by Winthrop High School Student Council and 21st Century After School Program. It'll be on Sunday, April 28th. It is for all ages. There will be a 1-mile fun run and a competitive 5K, and the deadline to register is April 12th. So, Jen?
Yes, the middle school spring showcase is coming up April 5th, 6th, and 7th. Tickets are now available for that. That includes plays that are directed by the students as well as their competition play. I Never Saw Another Butterfly.
There we go. I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. And I'd like to add that we will be adjourning from executive session. Second by Mr. Matucci. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? The ayes. Oh,
You need a vote.
Ms. Hames, you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Fabiano? Yes. Mr. Matucci? Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Swope? Mr. Vecchia? Mr. Perrin? Mr. Capabianco?
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion is adopted.